So with that, like, you guys just still get to doing it. You're at that point, it becomes a little more affordable. So do you all own the gear, or are you like renting
Yeah,
studio
no,
time?
we again, so my dude Mikey, Red Brick Records, and my boy Sal that I told you about earlier that I started doing music with when I was younger, and recorded some of my first songs at his house, you know. Um, he had a little small setup with a dat with a 4 track and all that stuff like that. So we did some stuff on that. But eventually what I did was I got those two together so they could partner up. And Sal had the studio. Mikey had a lot of the connects. So we just all came together and Mikey started working these records, man. I mean, we pressed up, my first 12 inch, I think he pressed up maybe 2,000 copies. I'm not really sure on the number, 15 to 2,000 copies, something like that. But he had us in record pools. You know what I
How
mean?
did you
So
get it pressed at that time? I don't think I've talked to somebody who got a record vinyl pressed.
I'm assuming probably disc makers or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, I'm assuming, but it was definitely, expensive back then. But yeah, so we pressed up the first vinyl, and he started sending it out the record pools. He got into the record pools, and that cost money,
that's the
to
shit
get.
that goes to the different DJs to get you
Yeah.
radio play.
So back then DJs were subscribed to record pools, right? So how they would get their new music is from being subscribed to that record pool, like the new artists that were coming out, they want the DJs to play their music. So, if you pressed up, however many, you would set aside a certain amount of vinyls to just go to these record pools. Like you're just giving them to the record, you're just giving them away. And the record is just going out to all these different DJs that are subscribed to those record pools. So, I mean, even without the internet, my 12 inches were going out around the country, around the world, because they were going overseas too.
Yeah, it's big. I'm certain that exists now, and people need to get up on how they can get into some record pools for whatever local
I
whatever.
mean, record pools still exist. It's just a different, everything is email now. You know what I mean? Everything is closer to touch these days. You know what I mean? But back then it wasn't like that. They had to literally send these pieces of records out. They had to be shipped out.
Mm. Yeah, but that's serious. So I guess that puts your music out, but you have no way of knowing if people are hearing it.
Not really, man. I mean, no, well, the D with the way the record pools work was the DJs would usually report back whether or not they messing with the record or they not. You know what I mean? Or if the DJs, and a lot of them are radio DJs, like college radio DJs. So they would reach out. Oh, we want to interview, especially a lot of the college radio stations upstate. So we did a lot of we basically toured the whole upstate and did like almost every college, back in those days, interviewing and going up in there and freestyling, and they would play the records. So the records were getting played.
And then because you're up in the colleges, that can unlock opportunities to now go perform at colleges and shit.
And that's exactly what we did.
Say fucking word. I bet there's still a whole college grind that a lot of people sleep on. Like I say that because I don't know a single one of the peoples in my squads, and they might do it, not talk about it, but I can't think of a single person that's like, bro, and I tapped into the college grind. Nah, it just isn't a common sentence.
I wouldn't say that we really tapped into it like that, but we definitely made our rounds. We definitely made our rounds enough to put out another 12 inch.
That is way more tapped into it than most humans I know. I mean, there's a one-two person that maybe might know a thing, but usually it's like when you're in college, you go do it. But just the idea of leveraging a record pool to get your music into a situation where you're actually just getting invited down to all of these colleges to go create that like opportunities and bridges over there is pretty powerful to me. Like that's a cool part of that, and it must have been hella fun.
Yeah, no, it definitely was, man. I mean, at that point, I really thought my thought process back then was, oh, we gonna win.
Mm.
How could we not? You know what I mean? Like we never got really too much bad feedback from anything from the music that we put out.
Right.
You know, then I started getting looks from some of the one of the underground magazines that was pretty prominent back then, Insomniac magazine. Shout out to Israel. He's still doing his thing on the digital side of things on the gram and all that stuff. But yeah, we got plugged in with him. They liked the second 12-inch that we put out. It made it into they used to do a thing called the top 12 inches with the most one-liners in it.
Right.
So the second 12-inch that I did was featuring my dude Hannibal Lecter, aka Seth Marcel. What up, my brother from another mother? He was the kid earlier that I was talking about that was my DJ and producer before he even started rapping. But we did a record together, and he was on that 12-inch, and yeah, we got inducted into that magazine under that little section, the top 12 inches with the most one-liners in it.
Yeah, it's dope.
Yeah, I got the article somewhere, man. But there was some pretty dope names that we were in there with. You know what I mean? I can't think of off top. I haven't really looked at it in years and years and years. It's been 20 years since that happened. You know what I mean?
Right. Makes sense, but it's still just the idea of being involved in that and going out there and just pushing it, because again, everything stacks up, right? This is all just part of the story, and it's still like a
Fact.
dope part of it. Um, so like, what happens after that? I mean, are you guys like, is there a lot to perform at in Syracuse? Are you like heading to places like New York
Uh,
yet?
Not really. There's not really too many places to perform in the town, but we definitely did our fair share of shows out here, whether if we put them on ourselves or just jumped on some shows or showcases that people were having. There was always something going on at the university, so we would always try to tap in and get involved with what was going on at the university as far as show wise is concerned. Um, but yeah, after the first single, man, we were working at a lot of stuff, but things just started to slow down, man. You know what I mean? I was getting impatient. You know what I mean? At that time, I'm a young father. I have children at that point. You know what I mean? I need bread. You know what I mean? So I started to get just started falling back from it, man. You know what I mean? I ended up putting we ended up putting the album out. Um, I just hit the streets with them and sold as many as I could. Um, but after that, like I just started to fizzle out a little bit, man. Started to lose momentum because it didn't happen. You know what I mean? I felt like we was working and it didn't happen. As far as back then, everything was getting a major record deal, like getting signed, getting a
Right.
major record deal, or getting major distribution or something like that. You know what I mean? So when it wasn't happening, I just was falling back and getting back into the streets. You know what I mean?
I definitely can understand that, especially because now it might look like, well, you can just go independent, grind that, and hustle this and whatever, but it's not possible in the same regards. Like the opportunities weren't, especially if you're a father. And as I've seen with my peers that have become parents, it is incredible how something like a rap career becomes a back burner when you have a 2 year old.
Yeah.
And
And then actually in 2000, I moved to Florida.
oh, that's cool. What part of
I,
Florida?
I moved to Orlando, Florida in 2000. So I was kind of like off the music, but now moving to a new city and like, you know, going, trying to figure out where the spots is at, where the MCs is at. You know what I mean? Um, Met a lot of dope people out in Orlando, man. And the crazy thing is, again, and this goes to show you that even without the internet, how far of reach shit was happening. Um, and basically, I walked into this spot called Will's Pub, and the DJ was playing my record.
Say a word.
Facts,
That's one of the most incredibles. Like that
facts.
honestly sounds like the one of the early level dreams you could have.
That's a fact. So the dude, and I was just going to different spots trying to figure out where everything was happening at. And I was just chilling in this spot watching, the local dudes do their thing, you know what I mean? And at this point I really haven't rubbed any elbows or introduced myself or even, started doing anything at all. But I was just, chilling, enjoying the shows and all that shit, seeing what was what, who was who. And, lo and behold, homeboy puts my record on.
So that's your shit. Like
Hmm. Yep, yep. So, and then the next thing that happened in Orlando was basically the magazine that I was telling you about, Insomniac magazine. Um, I forgot how I figured it out, but I think my boy Mikey called me and told me that Insomniac magazine, they were doing a fifth anniversary in Orlando. Their fifth anniversary show was in Orlando, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in Orlando." So I hollered at Iz, and it just so happened he just moved to Orlando or was living in Orlando. So this guy from New York City, from the Bronx, who's doing this underground magazine, is living right where I'm living, who I already have a relationship with through putting my records into his magazine already.
Right.
So when I reached out to him and told him, look, I'm out here. I just moved out here. And, you know, he loved the record and all that shit. So he was like, yo, you want to come perform at the fifth anniversary? You know what I mean? MF Doom was the headliner.
What?
Yeah. So
Hella
MF Doom
cool.
was, yeah, MF Doom was the headliner. Um, oh man, uh, Big Just was one of the headliners. From Def Jux.
Yeah, that's fucking cool, man.
I have a picture somewhere of me. Mars Ills was one of the headliners too. I have a picture somewhere with me, Big Just, and Mars Ills, somewhere. Um, but anyway, so this is what introduced me to the local scene in Orlando. You know, because there was no local people performing in Orlando.
Right.
Nobody. You
So
know
you're
what I
saying
mean?
nobody from Orlando was a local rapper, thus you were the closest thing to a
That
local rapper.
that was on that bill.
Oh,
So you know all the local underground cats in the city was at that show. You know what I
I see
mean?
what you're saying. So other local rappers basically saw you open for MF Doom and went, "Oh shit."
Hmm.
That's what I would do. I would go,
And
"Oh
then
shit."
that's when a couple of the dudes, you know, the DJ that played my record was like, "Oh, I play your record," you know. I was like, you know, and I just started kicking it with people, man. You know what I mean? And met a lot of cool ass dudes out there, man. Salute to Orlando. A lot of cool ass dudes I met out there, man. And then I did music out there for the next 5 years, man. I finally put out a mixtape while I was out. I put out how many mixed? I put out one mixtape while I was out there, and then I got with another label out there. Started working with another label. Shout out to my dude D Smooth. And did a few more things out there, man. I got more into the music out there than anything, because I do production too. So when I moved out there, I started getting into making more beats too. So I did a lot of production for a lot of people out there too as well.
When did you get it? When did you start getting into making beats?
Right around the same time when my right before my first 12-inch dropped, I produced the track
Mm.
as well. So
So is,
like 90, like 98,
so
99, I started producing on the MPC 60.
what is that's one of those four
It's the
track
machine.
like the
Nah, the MPC 60 is a beat machine.
okay. That's dope.
Sampler.
That's incredible. So you're all basically you're all the elements.
Yeah, yeah. I never DJ though.
That's fair.
Never. I
I
definitely would
mean,
jump on them and scratch
I'm
and
gonna I'm
play
gonna
around, but
I'm
I was
gonna throw
I
like
never was a DJ.
beat making is kind of in the ballpark. It's the music side. It's not like fully. It's the ballpark,
I'll take it. I ain't mad. I'll take it. I'll
and
take it.
I mean it feels like I don't know. You ever beat makers and DJs? You talk to them. It's very similar people. They care about very similar things.
Very gear, or it's kind of like a gearhead situation.
They also
Like
care,
DJs and producers are into their gear.
and they care way more about the sound. They care way less about the bars. They're like, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Well, some of them like they have their fit preference. They're like, bro, but does it sound good? And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, say a
yeah, for
word. That's a
sure.
whole different conversation.
A whole different conversation.
That's fresh.
Whole different conversation. But Orlando was dope, man. I did a lot of things out there, man. We did like I said, I got with this record label and signed it, a deal with them. Uh, the dude that used to run the label was like a marketing dude for Atlantic Records, and he had like some boy bands. He had a boy band that was, I forgot the name of it and all that shit. Um, But a couple of the dudes from that boy band went on to be kind of famous. Drew Seeley, and I forget the other dude's name. The other dude was doing hooks for like he did was doing hooks for like Lloyd Banks, and I forget his name though off top. I can't think of his name off top. But Orlando was dope, man. We ended up doing like a tribute song to Tracy McGrady. Performed at the finals versus the Pistons. Um, yeah, it was dope, man. You know what I mean? Definitely was dope.
That's
I
huge.
met, that's where I met. That's where I met Mad Ills, man. This is where the battle rap comes into play because this is where I met Mad Ills that actually produced his first album.
Let's say a word. Um, wow. How did you meet him? Like, is it just like random or?
He was working in the mall. Had a job in the mall. He had a job in the mall. You know what I mean? Just my store was like the cool store to come to. So all the kids came to my store to buy their gear and their clothes and all of that. And just I just kind of linked up with him, man. They would, just they was rapping and all that stuff. So I would, jumped in one of their ciphers one day and started killing it. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
hip hop heads just find a way to meet each other, bro. Wherever you go, it don't matter where you go. Like, MCs, we're very competitive, in nature. And at that point, I was still pretty very competitive with rhyming. So anytime I had a chance to rhyme, I would jump in and rhyme. You know what I mean?
right. So you produced his first album, and what happens after that in your story? Because so far mine has been pretty epic. And we're like, what, in your 20s now?
Yeah, I would say late 20s, man. It's 2000.
That's
You know what I
serious
mean?
still. 2000, late 20s, and accomplished a lot more than a lot of careers.
Yeah, but
Hella
still,
big flowers.
but nothing really substantial though. You know what I mean? Nothing really stuck. You know what I mean? I definitely did a lot of things, and I'm grateful for what I did, but nothing really took got me to that next level where I wanted to be at, man. But I still enjoyed looking back right now. I still can enjoy my journey. You know what I mean?
No, it makes sense, but like even then, when you're looking at it from my perspective, where I'm not yet at any of those levels I want to be at, it's like, yo, but those levels that you hit are like fucking hella nice levels that a lot of people like don't earn because, but when I say earn, because you run it back, you're like 4 years old playing drums. You're already
Yeah.
putting into work, even if you didn't know
Hmm.
you was putting into work.
I was destined to do this music shit, man.
I believe
It
that.
was just written. It was written for me to be involved with this music thing. It just was. If I just believe that it was written.